a student was on one side of a raging river, and there was no bridge and no boat. And he saw his teacher over on the other side, and he yelled across, "How do I get to the other side?" And the teacher yelled, "You are on the other side." I share that. Why? Because it feels like we're always choosing sides, right? Like there's like this line in the sand, and there's a divide, and it breaks my heart to see us not getting along and wanting to get our way and not being open to hearing a different point of view, that ours is the only one that matters. And it hurts. Maybe some of you can relate to that. So what can we do about it? Well, I was reminded this week, I was at the Unity Convention and talked about barefoot walking, not walking barefoot. They're two different things. I didn't know this. Barefoot walking is when you intentionally put your bare feet or your body or your hands on the ground, on the earth, on Mother Earth. That you get that energy from the earth, and it can be very healing. It can help with stress and inflammation, and it can just really help. And so I did this on Saturday after my run. I took off my shoes and socks and I walked on the grass. Anybody do that? Do you do that on a regular basis? It's supposed to be very good for you. It's one thing we can do, one little thing that we can do for ourselves. I said I was at the Unity Convention, and that was Monday. I was there Monday through Thursday night. And a couple years ago, I didn't go last year because I was on sabbatical, but last year I went to the convention, and there was a lot of heated debates. There were two sides. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of people putting others in boxes. You're on this side or you're on that side. And it was heartbreaking. You see, Unity, there's two organizations, and I'm just to give you a little reference to this. Unity Worldwide Ministries is our, started out as an association to support the ministries in the field. It does all of our education, all of our credentialing, licensing, ordination, and supports ministries with having consultants and trainings and such, education. And then it's Unity World Headquarters, which is the grounds, Unity Village, the publishing, Unity Magazine, Science and Health, Spirituality and Health Magazine now that it's called, Daily Word, does all the publishing, it does the Unity Village grounds, and so they were at opposite ends a couple years ago. Heartbreaking. This year at the convention, actually a couple months ago, they started inviting all its members. Members are all licensed Unity teachers and ministers to some town hall meetings. They want to come together. They want to unite. They want to bring unity to unity. And they have found ways to do this while letting everybody be their own, every center, every church, be its own. Be who they came here to be, who they came here to serve, and still be unity. It was an incredible convention from that standpoint, that there's so much momentum, there's so much joy around this, that we're going to become one. Like, unity should be united, right? I mean, it felt so good. And the vote is in November, so stay tuned. But, I think just from the positive energy and the questions that were asked and the way they presented it to us all, I have a good feeling that it's going to pass. And even if it doesn't, we're moving in the right direction to realize that we teach oneness And we need to be one in unity. And it doesn't matter if you say you're a Christian church or you're a spiritual non-religious center, which is what the argument was about. We can maintain autonomous centers, autonomous churches, and still all be under the umbrella of unity. And that's what diversity is about, right? We say here, our purpose, we want to increase our diversity. It doesn't mean we all want to be the same. We want to all be who we came here to be. We want to be who God created us to be. We want to live our lives and show up as our authentic, true selves. And that's what's beautiful about it, that we can be diverse. We can all be diverse in this room and still be all part of Columbine. You know, it's a beautiful thing when we stop having to get our way or make sure somebody agrees with us, or, you know, have a difference of allowing differences of opinions without it hurting us, without it feeling like it's a slap in the face, because we're going to have differences of opinion. We're different, and that's good. Why would we all want to be the same? And when we choose love, as I believe our movement now is choosing love to come together, there are no sides. There's no you're right, you're wrong. There's none of that. Love doesn't choose. Love embraces everything. There's no shoulds or should nots. We don't need to put people in a box. We can all just be and celebrate our diverse, different opinions and ways of being, and still learn from each other and love each other. So I showed this video 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago, but you know, it bears repeating about putting people in boxes. So let's watch.
It's so easy to place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating sides. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Who is never on time?
And then there's us, we who have tattoos. We who feel lonely. We who have been bullied. We who have bullied others. We who are madly in love. We who have overcome great adversity. ones whose team won the championship this year. We who beat cancer. And then there's all of us who are created in the image of God. And as one body, we stand together, united as one under His grace.
So, united as one under His grace, her grace, their grace. Let's not, gender neutral. But I love that video because it shows, we're all created in this image of spirit, and we get to choose how we show up. Pride Month started in 1999 as a way of honoring the LGBTQ community. This is a group of people who have not always been honored, who still are not always honored. The LGBTQ plus rights movement actually started in 1969 when a gay bar in New York called Stonewall Inn was being raided continuously, but this time protesters fought back. And it lasted for 6 days, and they, like some places I looked at called it Stonewall Inn riots, but they don't really want to call it riots. It was a rebellion. Nobody was killed. Nobody was, people may have been injured, but it was really 6 days of saying enough, enough. And there were a lot of cisgender people involved as well, so it got more awareness. And that's what started the LGBTQ plus movement, the right for their rights, to have equal rights. It wasn't until 2001, one country, the first country to allow same-sex marriage was the Netherlands, by Queen Beatrix, who signed it into law and said it was lawful. And it was another 14 years before Ireland was the first country that allowed same-sex marriage by popular vote in May of 2015. In June of 2015 here in the United States, we allowed it by the Supreme Court ruling. It doesn't mean there aren't a lot of hate crimes and violence committed against the LGBT plus community, and why we need a month to honor them, to recognize them, to tell their stories, to love them. Whether you identify with that community or not, it's our opportunity to honor them. I love this quote that came out in Spiritual Passages. For their own survival, LGBT plus people have learned to refuse to allow ignorant comments, restrictive legislation, and threats of physical violence prevent them from being who they are. They have often had to identify with pride within, while living in a world that doesn't support who they are authentically. Today, there are many countries where LGBT plus people are being actively targeted and persecuted. With the pride flag associated with colors of the rainbow, this group of people are a great example of people living in color. As Holmes writes, we all benefit from coming out of our emotional intoxication and being ourselves. Isn't that beautiful? Living in color means being who you came here to be, showing up as your most authentic self. How many of us, regardless of what box we put around ourselves, do that? Live authentically. Be who you came here to be. You serve the world better by being your true self in the world. In Mary Magdalene's gospel, she talks about, you mistook the garment I wore for who I really am. Which means you're looking at the identities I've created about myself, the identities the things that I identify with, instead of looking inside and seeing the Christ, no matter about what our preferences are on the outside or in the world or in our physical bodies. Don't mistake that for knowing inside that we are all the same, that we are all divine. And so I want to share a few stories of some people who you may have heard of, may not have heard of, who have honored and lived in color, lived their authentic selves. The first is William Dorsey Swann. William Dorsey Swann was born in 1860 in the state of Maryland as a slave. But William Dorsey Swann later became the first self-proclaimed drag queen. And he used to love wearing these beautiful silk gowns with the corset and the hoops and everything. And he's known for saying, dignity is not granted, dignity is claimed. I didn't have a picture of him, I don't know if there were pictures, there were probably pictures back then, but the next one I had was Harvey Milk. You may have watched the movie Milk. You may have heard of Harvey Milk. He was a U.S. veteran. He served in the Korean War, and he was the first openly gay man to be elected into public office. 11 months later, in San Francisco, he was assassinated. Then there's Alan Turing. If you watch the movie The Imitation Game, Alan Turing is the mathematical genius who he and his team were able to crack the Enigma code that the Nazis were using. And they say because he was able to crack that code, the war was shortened by 2 to 4 years. In 1952, he lived in Britain, and it was illegal to be a homosexual. And he was arrested, and to avoid prison time, he had a chemical castration. He lost his job, and a couple years later, they found his body. He had taken cyanide poisoning and committed suicide. It wasn't until 2013 that he was pardoned for his crime of being queer. And in 2016, in Britain, they made anyone who was prosecuted earlier for being homosexual, they pardoned them. It's called the Turing Law now. Then there's Michael and Brian Wilmoth. Brian Wilmoth is on your right, and Michael's his brother. And Brian, when he was a teenager, he realized he was gay. And his father was going through his things. And his father found a love letter from another man or boy to Brian. And he said, "Come with me." And he took him in the car, dropped him off in the country with $5 and said, "Never come back." Brian is the oldest of 8 siblings. Brian missed his siblings very much. And so when he would try to talk to them, he would call home whenever he could. But then he found out that his father was beating them if they talked to him because the father didn't want them to catch gay. Every one of his siblings ended up leaving home, running away, or being kicked out. They were all estranged from their parents eventually. And Brian tried to reconcile with every one of them. Michael was very resistant. Michael didn't want to know anything about people who are gay. He was not open to it at all, but Brian didn't give up. It's his brother. Eventually, Michael came around and he started meeting other people who were gay, especially when he would meet a man who said, "I got to hook you up with my brother, Brian." Brian's youngest brother, Luke, was just a baby when Brian was kicked out of the house. And Luke called him up. Luke had also been kicked out of the house by his parents. He wanted to go to the University of Dallas, which was the Catholic university. That was his dream, though. And Brian used his savings, bought a round trip ticket and a one-way ticket, and took his brother Luke to the University of Dallas, got him all settled. And as he was leaving, before he left, he hugged his brother Luke, and he was sobbing and saying how much he loved him and how much it meant to him that Luke had asked for his help. He felt like he was finally, truly a big brother to this little baby he didn't even meet before he left the family home. And Luke starts walking away and turned around and mouthed, "I love you," to his brother Brian. And Brian's just sobbing. He calls Michael and says what an amazing time he had in Dallas and how he was able to bring all of his siblings. All 8 of them are very close. All 8 of them love each other and love Brian for all he did to bring them together. Then I have Jenna and MJ. MJ is a lesbian woman who didn't think that her life was really worth living. For many years, she knew she was gay and thought she was never going to be able to walk a beach holding the hand of another woman that she loved. And then a mutual friend introduced MJ to Marty. And Marty was married to a man and had raised 2 children. But MJ and Marty fell in love. And MJ couldn't believe her good fortune because Marty told her 2 children the truth, that she had fallen in love with MJ, another woman. And MJ said, "This is the first time in my life that anybody has said they love me and been proud of it." Jenna is her granddaughter, one of Marty's child's daughter, and they were on this interview together that I listened to, and MJ said, "Jenna, I've never asked you this, but are you embarrassed having a gay grandma?" And Jenna said, "No, you're my grandma, and it's all about our relationship. That's all that matters." Isn't that beautiful? It's all that matters. And so, that's what all of us should be doing, right? It's all that matters. Not what's on the outside, not the identities, not the preferences, but what's inside. What's inside. Last weekend, before I went to the Unity Convention, I went to Michigan for Kevin's mom's celebration of life, which was last Saturday. It was beautiful. And we got to spend a lot of time with family. So Monday, when I flew out to the Unity Convention, I wasn't in the best place. I was kind of judgy. Not kind of. I was judgy. And so at Unity Village, the convention is always the first day at Unity Village, and the rest of the time's in a hotel in Overland Park. But at Unity Village, they have a beautiful labyrinth. Let me show a picture here. It's huge. It's beautiful. It was just opened maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So I walked the labyrinth. Because when I walk a labyrinth, I know that there's something that needs to be released for me. I like to do a practice that is the 3 R's, which is release, step in, something that wants to be released, receive guidance, and then as you're walking out, return to the world with this new revelation, this new knowing. And so I had some judgment to release. And we all have judgment. It's part of being human. But it does say in the gospel, judge with right judgment. Judge with the eyes of God, not with the human eyes, because the human eyes can pick things apart, tear people apart. So I was also reminded at the convention by a Reverend Randy Feike, forgive me, Randy, if you're ever listening to this, who won an award, who's doing amazing things in his ministry. And I was reminded with his acceptance speech of an interview that Milo Angelou did with Oprah. And maybe some of you have seen it. In it, she talks about how Maya went to Unity Church, and she was reading a book called Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. And in the book, there's a sentence that just blew her away. And the sentence was, God loves me. And as she read that sentence, God loves me, her mentor said, read it again. God loves me. Read it again. God loves me. Read it again. God loves me. And she started crying. How many of us really take that in? God loves me. Maya was blown away. She said, it's amazing. This God that created the leaves and the fleas and the stars and the rivers and you and you and you and you and you loves me. Can you feel that? God loves me. God loves you. And that's all we need to know to have a better world, is to know that we are loved, to love ourselves as much as God loves us. It's humbling, Maya said. It's humbling to remember that, to know that, to hold that. God loves me. And we can hold that thought as long as we can and let that come, let that just overflow to everyone else. We love from the overflow because we have so much love for ourselves, because God loves us so much that it spreads and it oozes out, and we can make this world a better place because of it. Because of that knowing, we can honor all people. We can stop putting people in boxes. We can honor the LGBT plus community. We can honor Black Lives Matter. We can honor everyone that's been marginalized, everyone that has been persecuted, everyone that has had a hate crime against them. Love. Choosing love frees us. Choosing love. So I invite you this week If there is someone you're putting in a box, get rid of those lines. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. And we're called to do this work. We're called, we're invited to do this work, to be our best selves. Our best selves, because the world needs us to be our best selves. Yeah. So, namaste. Peace be with you.